implied. Like if we have automated about 20 elements, so we could explicitly define the weighting technique for them depending upon how we want them to weight and load, and after that we could operate them in the way we want. So let's suppose for a specific element we want to wait until something else is loaded, or until that element is present, or until that element is visible. So there could be different conditions, but for the case of implicit wait, it is implied, and it just waits for the presence of the element, and if that element is not present until that timeout, so then that would throw no such element exception. But for the case of explicit wait, we could define the waiting technique that against which specific thing we want to wait. So under the explicit wait we have WebDriver wait and the Fluent wait. So today we will discuss about the WebDriver wait. So we have a WebDriver wait class. So we will be making an object of that class first. So in our project we already have defined this implicit wait by this implicitly wait method, but for the explicit wait we will be defining this object, then passing driver, and then a timeout. So for the seconds we could do it like this. So we have defined a WebDriver object and we are asking it to wait for 10 seconds. So this WebDriver wait object could be further used to wait against different conditions. So let's pause. In order to execute that wait, I will be doing wait dot until then. Thanks. Expected conditions dot, and after the dot we have options, all these expected conditions, that either a specific alert is present, or until title is changed to this, or until the element contains this attribute. But the most used ones would be visibility of all elements or visibility of element located. So if we are doing visibility of element located, then we could do it against a by locator. So it would be something like by dot xpath, and here we could give this xpath. So here I am changing the timeout to 5 seconds, as the implicit wait defined was also 10 seconds. So in these expected conditions we could define any condition, and on the basis of that specific condition we could tell the WebDriver to wait until that specific condition is met, or the timeout condition is met. But in the case of implicit wait, we didn't had many options. we were able to wait until the presence of element. So we could do the same with the explicit wait as well, where we have this option, presence of element located. So this presence of element located would only wait until the element is present on the page. But sometimes it happens that element is loaded but not visible. So for that one, we could do this one, visibility of element located. Any questions so far? Amuna, Anupama? Okay.
Sorry, I just lost the connection. Can you please come again?
Yeah. Where you lost?
Um, where you were telling about the comparing it with the implicit weight.
Okay. Well, I
That
was comparing it with implicit weight like twice or thrice, I guess. Okay. So implicit weight is actually employed, and implicit weight command would be executed once, like we did here. But explicit weight would be explicitly executed for every element. So this line
okay. I
specifically.
have a question here. I have a question here.
Yeah.
Tosin, can you just explain that what is feasible to use? It totally depends, or like for example, if you're using the implicit weight,
Yeah.
it totally implies that it will be waiting for every element.
Yeah.
Isn't it feasible to use the implicit weight once instead of just using the explicit weight again and again?
Yeah. This is a very good question, and your concern is actually valid. That implicit weight is employed on every element by default. So why we need explicit weight? So we will be using both actually. Explicit weight is not a replacement of implicit weight, but an addition for some conditions. Let's suppose here we have seen that implicit wait will wait for the presence of element located. So if the element is present but not visible, so in that condition we need explicit wait for that specific element, that we know that a specific drop down would load after some time, or options in a specific drop down would take time to load even after the page is loaded or the element is loaded. So in that condition we may go with the visibility. So these multiple conditions, the ones we have here, we could wait against any condition. So we have a lot of variety here. Okay. So like we could wait for a URL to be this, or a text to be this, or element to be present, or nested elements, or window titles, and so many things. And on the basis of different frames, here the frame means iframe. So if we have an iframe on the page and we want to wait for it, that until that iframe is loaded, after that we want to switch to it. So then we would be waiting for the iframe in the beginning, and then after that we will be switching to it. So implicit wait do not have those many options, but it does not mean that we don't need implicit wait. We always need implicit wait. In the beginning we are always going to use this line of command. But after that, for a specific element, if we want for a specific thing which could not be done with the implicit wait, then we explicitly need to wait, and we will be using this technique if we want to use it against a specific condition. So implicit wait would not do this thing, that I want to wait until this specific alert is present. Got my point? Yeah.
That's
And let's suppose if we have our page title would be changed later to something, so in that case we will be giving a string where page title could be something like this. So we are going to wait until the page title changes. So that thing could not be done with implicit wait, but implicit wait would be used. Let's say we are doing 20 operations, so implicit wait is implied to all of them, but we want to define a specific unique condition for two specific elements, for a specific drop down that if that specific drop down has 7 options, so then we want to continue our selection. So that thing could not be done with implicit wait, so for this thing we will be using explicit wait. So explicit wait would be used explicitly where it is required, and implicit wait would be used once and it is applied to every element. So here I will change the condition again. So we have two parts. Once we made the object of WebDriver wait and defined the timeout, and then the next step is the one which would be repeated against every element. So it is wait until that specific condition is met. So let's execute it. So there we are on the line where we are clicking that element. And here after executing it, it is working as the element was there. So now let's do something with it. I would change the text to Gmail1. So if Gmail1 is not present, then it is supposed to fail here. So it is failed on this line where it was unable to find the element. So before it waited for this execution, so these 5 seconds. So if I change this 5 to 20, so then we are explicitly changing the WebDriver wait for it. and now this find element should wait, and there it is failed. So other than that, we could try other conditions as well. Presence of element located for the same working element, and there it immediately clicked. So let's pause. After that, we want to click on another element, which could be driver dot find element by dot xpath, and here we could try something for this sign in. So without thoroughly watching the DOM, if I try this thing, where we could find any element on the basis of its text. So there we go, we found that element even without watching the DOM. As we are not tag specific here, element could be any tag, and it would be containing this specific text, sign in. So here finding the element and clicking it. So let's execute that code once. Okay, so it clicked on sign in. But if we had a case where that sign in was taking some time to load, or that other page was taking time to load, and in the meantime, or over the slow internet, that specific condition, this line of code may fail. If your internet is slow and page is taking time to load, so in that condition, if we command the implicit wait, so now there is no implicit wait. So let's see how it behaves. So it worked in this condition as well. So now if we have slow internet, so this line could fail, line 58, where we are clicking on sign in. So here the trick would be to wait until element is loaded, and there we will change it to visibility of element located, so it would cover both automatically, the presence and after the presence visibility as well. So presence is automatically covered with the visibility. Let's execute it again. There we go. So if you are thinking that it was working before, so you are right, but in worst circumstances where we have slow internet or slow server or something, so in those conditions it would fail, but with the wait it would be waiting, with this wait of 20 seconds it would be waiting until this condition is met. So that condition would save us from failures. So if we want to develop a smooth framework which could be executed on a product and could be used by many people, so we need explicit waits for the waiting. So let's suppose if we want to create a method which could be like wait for loader or something, so then we would be using a proper condition for the for a proper loader. But in case of a simple click, we could use implicit wait, knowing that it would be waiting until that element would be present and visible, and it would be clicked if it appeared before the timeout. So any questions?
Uh, no, not from my side.
Okay, Anupama, do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, so assignment for this one would be uh, to wait for the elements of a login page and then input the text into those input fields. So let's suppose you will be waiting for the username or the email input field using explicit wait in the beginning, and then after that you will be inputting your username or email address into that, and after that you will be waiting for the password and then will be entering the password text into the password field, and then you will be waiting for the login or submit button and then will be clicking on it. So can anybody repeat the assignment? Hello.
Um, yeah, sure. Um, Basically, you're saying that for the login page, what we have to do is that we have to use explicit waits for the email and input the email over there, and then explicit wait for the password, and then input the password and explicit wait for the button, and then click on the button. Basically, the login functionality using the explicit waits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the beginning you will be also be using implicit wait. So using implicit wait is a good practice, and we use explicit waits specifically according to the elements. So just for the learning purpose you will be using explicit wait with all three elements in your assignment.
Okay, got it. Here I have a question, Tawsif,
Yeah.
that um, when we'll suppose there is this login page which we are discussing for now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's Gmail.
Mm-hmm.
When we'll use implicit wait in the very beginning, won't that load all the elements of the page? Because we
No,
don't have any drop downs or anything. Won't it load? Won't it be implied on all the
no,
elements?
no, 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 no. The condition is different here. What we want to achieve. Implicit wait, like this line is not loading the page, but it is telling this web driver, this driver object, that what would be done after this line. So it means that even if we don't have this line here, so for this element, when we are finding this element, so implicit wait is automatically implied on this one. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry for cutting you, but that's what I was saying. That obviously the implicit wait will be implied on, like we have discussed the login page.
Yeah, yeah,
It will be implied on the email, on the password, and even on the button too.
yeah, yeah, it would
Uh,
be.
right?
Yeah,
But
right.
for the practice purpose, you're saying that just do it with explicit wait.
Yeah, yeah, for the
Okay.
for the learning purpose you will be using both.
And one more thing, I want you to clarify me that, like, obviously the implicit wait is there, but explicit wait we use if we want to wait further for, like, we have any drop down visibilities. And am I right?
Yeah, if we want to wait for any specific dynamic condition, let's
Okay.
suppose here, let's suppose here before clicking this, you want to wait until title is changed.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
Got it. Thanks. It was much clear.
Yeah. So it is not only about elements, but about many things that could be done. As I said that before switching to a iframe, you may wait until that frame is loaded and things like that. So these things are dynamic, but this thing is like employed. So this is implicit. So we have to define it once, and after that we are not doing anything. It is taking care of everything. But if we want to do something outside the boundaries of implicit wait, so then we use explicit wait for those elements.
Yeah, got it. Got
Okay,
it. Thanks.
no problem. Okay, so thank you so much.